Welcome back. While the Biden administration continues to struggle with the crisis at our southern border, Congress takes up two immigration bills on Capitol Hill tomorrow. The first would provide a path to citizenship for 2.5 million Dreamers. The second bill would allow more than 1 million undocumented farm workers to apply for legal status. Joining me right now, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, great to see you tonight. How will you vote on these two bills tomorrow?
I'll be voting no. Joe Biden brought us the era of catch and release. Now House Democrats want to bring us to the era of catch, release, and vote, because mass immigration that is uninvited by our country is their mechanism to seize power at the border. Our goal is to ensure that the American people are protected, that the American worker is protected, and that we protect our national security. Leader McCarthy's trip to the border exposed the extent to which we are not just seeing Central and South Americans traveling across our porous border. You're seeing West Africans, folks from the Middle East, special interest aliens. This is a real problem, and it is a terrible time to be offering amnesty in the Congress. We should be focused on border security and protecting our country.
Well, I'll tell you, the Biden administration is certainly giving us a lot to talk about with this agenda, and there will be more to come to talk about with you. I want to ask you about your request that the Judiciary Committee hold a hearing on the court-ordered conservatorships. This Free Britney Spears movement has been going on. What are you looking to achieve?
There are millions of Americans who are abused by the guardianship and conservatorship process. Just today, in fact, Maria, justice was delayed and denied to Britney Spears. She was just seeking an accounting of her assets, and yet again, it was another judicial act of abuse against her. And so if this can happen with, at one time, the most popular pop star in the world, imagine how it can treat someone who is elderly or infirm and subject to a family member or a caretaker draining their assets. I think there should be a Bill of Rights for people in guardianships and conservatorships that would free Britney, and it would free millions of our fellow Americans.
Well, I mean, it is pretty extraordinary. I was looking at this story earlier. She's a grown woman, and she doesn't have access to her own fortune that she worked incredibly hard to make.
She doesn't have access to it. Today, the hearing was about whether or not she could get a financial accounting, just to see where the investments have been made and whether or not fiduciary duties had been breached, and the court even kicked consideration of that. I think that anyone who has their finances managed by another person ought to have a right to transparency and review of those things. And the case of Britney Spears highlights how limited someone's rights are once they're in one of these conservatorships. Congressman Burgess Owens, famous NFL player, said even athletes who grow a little bit older are oftentimes victims of this type of abuse. So we're looking for Democrats who are willing to work with us in a bipartisan way. Fans of Britney, those who care about reform to this system, should contact Chairman Jerry Nadler. In Congress, we don't just have the power to legislate, we have the power to convene. And if we convened around these ideas, we would create more freedom for our people. And Britney Spears would be an excellent witness to talk about the abuses in this system.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing this. Really, I am. Let me ask you about this bipartisanship that you mentioned. Is there any to speak of at this point? So much legislation getting jammed in, so many ideas being talked about with no Republican support at all, Congressman.
Democrats have the power in Washington, and they intend to use it. They are not consulting with Republicans. They are not working toward any compromise. They are going to pull our country as far left as possible, and they're going to use coronavirus as the wrapping paper for all of it. I really believe the coronavirus has become the Trojan horse for socialism. We should stop voting for bills that continue to subsidize these lockdowns. We should be for open, free American people. That's how our country thrives.
Yeah, but you can't do anything to stop it, right?
Well, that's why I'm here. We got to excite the American people around these ideas. The American people should not tolerate an invasion at our border. They should not tolerate a left-wing government.
Congressman, it's good to see you tonight. We'll be watching. Congressman Matt Gaetz, thank you, sir.
This is Congressman Matt Gaetz. If you like that video, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and join us on our daily podcast, Hot Takes with Matt Gaetz, on your favorite podcast listening platform.